Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. The Blackhawks took Connor Bedard, #1 last night, Tony. It's a moment I'll remember forever.
Tony Kornheiser, weren't you in physical therapy when that happened?
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, you didn't even see it. You didn't see it.
I knew it was going to happen.
I watched an hour of that show. I did. I watched an hour.
I watched about an hour as well once I got out.
I enjoyed it. I was just so surprised that so many of these guys aren't going to play for the teams next year
right away.
Go to
That's
college
right. Back to school.
Or they're signed to someone else.
Yeah. Junior
that
league.
doesn't happen in basketball. That's different.
No.
It's different. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Kyrie plans to meet with the Suns. The Mets could have some big decisions to make, and Brian Windhorst joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with a perfect game. Only the 24th perfect game in Major League history. It was thrown last night by the Yankees' Domingo Germán, and it required only 99 pitches as the Yankees beat the Oakland A's 11-0. This was the first perfect game in 11 years and the fourth one thrown by a Yankee pitcher. In his last start, Germán was booed off the field in Yankee Stadium after giving up 10 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Wilbon, how do you make sense of this in the context of Germán's career, his season, and his previous outing?
Yeah, Tony, I don't know that it makes sense. There's so many weird things about it. So the 140-plus year history of Major League Baseball means that anytime you say perfect game, since there have been only that many of them, it's going to be special. You're going to go, whoa, perfect game. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, there were only like 10 of them. And so there's been a lot of them, relatively speaking, over the past, 40 years, since 1981. There have been a lot of them. And so maybe it's a little less special. But for him to throw one, you think of immortality, you think of guys who are going to the Hall of Fame, and about half of them, or slightly more, are going or are in the Hall of Fame already. But what is he? Where do we place him? Getting booed off the mound like a minute and a half ago, and then throwing a perfect game against a team that's one of the worst hitting teams in the 100. Decided this morning, my head is blowing up. I can't make sense of it, and I'm not going to try. It's just a fun thing to acknowledge.
Perfect games are extraordinarily rare, and there is no rhyme and reason to who throws them. It's the hardest thing for a pitcher to do, and yet the number of the 24, only 9 have been thrown by pitchers in the Hall of Fame, pitchers like Koufax or Cy Young or Randy Johnson or Catfish Hunter. You would not expect Germán to have thrown one because not only did he get booed off the field the previous start, the one before that, his last 2 starts, he's given up 15 runs in 5 1/3 innings. But as you say, you might suspect that Oakland would be the team that it happened against. Their batting average as a team right now is .217. That is the 6th lowest batting average since 1900. Germán himself has a checkered past, some of it very recent. He was tossed for 10 games this year for using too much goop, and, the assumption is that he was cheating. He was tossed for 81 games a while back for domestic violence. I don't think that MLB really wants him to have thrown this particular thing. He's never had a shutout or a complete game in the major leagues. This is very interesting. I was told this today. Do you know what it's called when you throw a shutout in less than 100 pitches? It's called a Maddox, after Greg Maddox.
Oh, after Greg Maddox.
He did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Times, the most famous one of all time is Don Larson. But if I gave you these names, Mike, if I gave you Dallas Braden and Philip Umber, would you say, oh, yeah, sure, they threw him? They had career-losing records.
Umber, I knew because he's a White Sox pitcher, and so I knew him. Braden, I forgot about. He was on the call, apparently, last night for this one. And in Oakland, it's still, you put all these things, factoids together, and I'm not sure any of it makes sense, but it's cool. It's a cool thing, I think.
Yeah.
Neither Justin Verlander nor your boy Max Scherzer has ever thrown a perfect game, but they do have 5 no-hitters between them. Mets owner Steve Cohen was counting on their dominance when he signed them both. But after last night's loss, the Mets sit 8 games under 500, 8.5 games out of the last wild card spot. Cohen said yesterday that if the team doesn't improve, quote, we have decisions to make at the trade deadline, close quote. Tony, could you see the Mets moving either or both of their aces?
Well, let's look at the statistics first. Let's look at the numbers. Scherzer's numbers. Scherzer, I believe, is 7-2 with a 3.95 ERA, and he's pitching tonight. Verlander is 2-4 with a 4.11 ERA, and I think he goes on Saturday. On the face of it, you would never get rid of Scherzer because, you know, even if he's making $43 million, he's 7-2. He's 7-2. Verlander, you might, but with Verlander, he won the AL Cy Young just last year.
Yeah.
He has said throughout the course of his career to be an impossibly hard worker. So, Mike, if there was anybody with a long leash in baseball, you would think it would be Verlander. Look, the owner of the Mets isn't spending money he doesn't have. He's got a lot of money. He spent all this money because he looked at the farm system when he bought the team, and people told him it stinks. So he went for the quick temporary fix, and he brought these guys in. Everybody had the same question about Scherzer and Verlander. Do they still have
too
it?
old?
Or is this the year? Is this the
Yeah.
year they fall off the cliff?
Tonight,
So one
they
of them
fall off.
isn't, and one of them might be. Yeah.
You know what, Tony? Guys with this much money and this kind of impatience, even though he seems less impatient than other guys with his much
Yes,
money.
he does.
These are still toys, and they tinker. They do stuff. Somebody who whispers something in their ear, and they go, let me try that. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he moved one or either. I wouldn't move Scherzer at 7-2 and at 3.95. And I wouldn't move Verlander because they're great. Because they're Hall of Famers, and they're each and both likely to go on second half runs, which could be August, September runs, where they win 6 straight starts and have an ERA under 2. So, they shouldn't, but it doesn't mean he won't. And I've learned enough covering sports over the last 40-plus years, and you longer than that we're not going to really, really tie ourselves and go to the betting window on what billionaires are likely to do.
Yeah. And they can afford to, when they bought high to sell low, they can afford it.
Yes,
but I
they
don't
can.
think getting rid of those pitchers is a wise thing to do. I don't think so. We'll see. We move now to the NBA rumor mill. Chris Haynes of Bleacher Report is reporting that Kyrie Irving will meet with the Phoenix Suns, who are looking to quickly assemble a championship team. Well, Bon, these are your Suns. Can you see Irving fitting in Phoenix?
No, not at all. And there's a lot of dynamics here, Tony. A lot of dynamics. I mean, everybody's talked about whether Isaiah Thomas has influence with Matt Ishbia, the new owner. We've seen them courtside together. I know they're close friends. I know that. This is not going to be disingenuous. And Isaiah loves Kyrie. I know that having nothing to do with the Suns. Isaiah Thomas loves Kyrie Irving. We've gotten into arguments. Isaiah's forgotten more basketball this morning than I'll ever know. But I have at times said to him, stop with Kyrie. I know you love him. He thought that Kyrie was going to be great with Luka last year. I think Isaiah owes me breakfast on that one because they weren't. Not that it was his fault entirely, Kyrie. The Suns have no money. They have no money to go after Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving's not going to come here for free. Kyrie Irving's going to go back to Dallas because that's the only place that can both be a playoff team and pay him. He's not going to Detroit. He's not going to Houston. He's not even going to go to Sacramento. He's not going to any places. He's got all the leverage on Dallas. Dallas has to bring him back. He can take all the meetings he wants. He can have all the meetings, Tony. No, he's not coming to Phoenix. He can come hang out here. I don't think Kyrie plays golf. He can come hang out here, be in the sun. It's great. But he's not coming to play for the Suns, no.
So I mean, my answer to this is a little different than yours. And it's just that, haven't we all seen this movie, and don't we know that it ends badly? Haven't we seen it a million times? I mean, how did it work out for Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn? Not too great. How did it work out? You say he can only go to Dallas. I don't even know why they would want him. You say they're a playoff team, but they weren't a playoff team.
They have to have
him.
He got there,
and they were not a playoff team.
They weren't.
I look at this owner, Matt Ishbia, and he's a young man who I think overpaid for the franchise. I think he's impulsive. I think he's splashy. I think he wants to do everything in a hurry. So he gets Kevin Durant, then he fires a coach, then he gets Bradley Beal. Boom, boom, boom. He's been there an hour and a half, and there are fireworks being set off all the time. I don't think this would work, and for the simple reason that if you have 3 guards, right, you got Booker and you got Kyrie Irving, and you got Bradley Beal, and they each want to take 20 to 25 shots a game. I mean, is that going to work? I don't.
Tony,
I don't think
Tony.
so.
You don't have to suppose it'll work. The Suns don't have the money. There are rules in the NBA. There's a salary cap.
Well,
Kyrie Irving's not coming here for $1.50. That's not going to happen. Kyrie Irving wants to get paid.
What if they make a trade?
That's why he left Brooklyn.
What if they trade somebody? What if they trade Ayton and other things? I don't know. It's your team. I take no responsibility for it. Let's take a break.
I just told
Coming
you.
up, we will ask Brian Windhorst whether there's any way the Suns could indeed land Kyrie.
We'll also ask him whether James Harden is destined to stay with the Sixers. And Harden's going to stay with the Sixers. I just undercut my man Windhorst. Just undercut him.
Does Durant continue to want to play with Kyrie, or does he not?
Why would you even wonder what those guys want to do? It changes like underwear changes.
Okay.
Pardon the Interruption is present. Welcome back to Pardon the Interruption, presented by Corona, part of Happy Hour.
NBA free agency opens tomorrow, which makes it a perfect time to bring in our good friend, Brian Windhorst. Brian, James Harden has just opted in. What does that mean, and what does it portend?
It means that he didn't reach an agreement with the Philadelphia 76ers on a new contract. And, the issue here is that I don't think he had much of a market in straight free agency because there just isn't teams out there that have a lot of money that are willing to pay him, and sign-in trades are very difficult because they're subject to a whole different set of rules. And so he's bypassing free agency, and he's going to try to force a trade. And few people in NBA history have more experience in forcing trades than James Harden. And so here we go. The next few days are going to be interesting. And the first domino here, guys, was last night when, in a surprise move, the Los Angeles Clippers released Eric Gordon to knock $21 million off their payroll. And I got to say, yes, it was a lot of money coming off their payroll, but the LA Clippers don't do things to save money unless something else is going on. And as soon as that happened, the wheels started moving. What are the Clippers doing? What are the Clippers doing? And that is what has brought us here, because I think the negotiations with Harden and the Sixers weren't going well. The Clippers were aware of it, and they are, by getting Gordon off their books, they make their situation cleaner to set up for a possible trade with the Sixers and James Harden. Now, there are other teams I would expect to jump in here. I don't think this is a done deal, but the Clippers have expiring contracts. They have 2 first-round picks that they can offer in trade, and they have the ability to, offer, an array of different players that could help the 76ers. And so I think the Clippers are deep, neck deep into this. It went all the way down to the wire for Harden to pick up the option almost exactly to 5 o'clock when he picked it up. But he has. And watch out for the LA Clippers creating a new big three with James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, figuring out how that might go.
Brian, as always with the NBA, we couldn't wait to actually see that. Even though getting all 3 of them on the court at the same time for more than 5 games might be something you'd want to go to the betting window on, you've established the Clippers and Kawhi and Paul George staying. Who else might be? Give me another team, because it's hard to imagine if the Clippers are involved that the Knicks wouldn't say, oh, wait, us too, even though they might not have the assets, but would the Knicks be involved?
Yeah, so Adrian Wojnarowski has reported that the Knicks are one of the teams that Harden would have an interest in. I think the Knicks, what might be interesting, guys, is I think they're trying to save their powder for maybe a huge name player that might become available in the next year. And so they got a question, is it worth using some of their draft assets or some of their young players in trade for James Harden now? Or can they wait for a potentially younger player that might be a better fit? Remember, whoever trades for James Harden is going to have to deal with him on a 1-year contract. And his contract is structured in a way that he can't extend it. So you're trading for a guy on the last year of his deal that you're going to have to deal with this in a year. He had difficulty coming to terms at age 33 here with Philadelphia, who had reason to re-sign him. Whatever they were offering, he didn't like. And I don't blame him for playing hardball. You're going to inherit that situation next year. So, it's obviously trading for a player that doesn't have a lot of money left, but it's trading for a player that you might just be renting, and that'll affect the price.
We'll get you out of here on this, but it's the other big name that surfaced today. Chris Haynes is reporting that Kyrie Irving plans to meet with the Phoenix Suns tomorrow. Could you see Kyrie Irving reuniting with Kevin Durant in Phoenix?
It would be very difficult and unlikely because of the rules on what it would take for a sign and trade. The Suns are way, way above where's my hand? The Suns are way, way, way above the apron that is required for you to be underneath. So it would take a 3-team deal potentially. If there's one thing harder than a 3-team deal, it's a 3-team sign and trade. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And frankly, from the outside, it looks like a leverage play. Having said that, it now appears like Philadelphia may be in need of a point guard. And there may be an option there for Kyrie Irving to continue to test that situation. So I would not be surprised if we see Kyrie want to investigate what's going on in Philadelphia. If Harden moves out, if there's a window for him to come in. The other name here is Dame Lillard. Is it possible that Philadelphia, if James Harden moves out, could acquire assets from Los Angeles, put their assets together, and prepare an offer for Dame Lillard? That is an option. Kyrie Irving potentially would be an option, or they could go with Tyrese Maxey, take whatever assets they might get in a James Harden trade, and send those assets somewhere else for somebody else. So we had kind of what was looking like a mundane free agency period. James Harden has forced the issue because his market was narrow, and now we're going to have a circus probably for the next 2 or 3 days.
Circus is fun. Circus is fun. Hot stove in every
How about Kyrie
sport is
getting
fun.
booed in
Thank
Philly
you,
every
Brian.
night by those fans? How about that? Woo.
Thanks,
We'll
Brian. Let's take one last break. Still to come, a former number 1 announces her return to tennis.
And how will Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce fare against Steph Curry and Klay Thompson tonight? What is that? That's not 3-on-3. It's not 3-on-3 basketball, is it? Because there's only 2
No,
on
that's
2.
the golf. That's the match.
Tonight on SportsCenter at 6.
And the interruption is presented by Corona. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 34th birthday on Sunday, Alex Morgan. The veteran striker will be the top goal-scoring threat on the United States women's national team when they open play in the World Cup next month. The World Cup will be hosted by Australia and New Zealand, and the Americans' first game will be against Vietnam in Auckland. Morgan is the team's leading active scorer with 121 goals. She's been on 2 winning World Cup teams, 2015 and 2019. Those teams were coached by Jill Ellis, who has now been succeeded by Vlatko Andonovski. Morgan has an Olympic gold medal from 2012. She's got a bronze from 2021. She plays for the San Diego Wave in the NWSL, and this will be her 4th World Cup.
And Tony, you have to wonder if this will be the last go-round for her, for Megan Rapinoe, and the group of sort of, golden players who made soccer, women's soccer in the United States, really sort of what it is, that second boost. So good luck to them. July 21 is the first game for the U.S. against Vietnam, as you mentioned.
Happy anniversary, San Diego Chicken. On this day 44 years ago, the now iconic mascot revealed his new costume by hatching from a giant styrofoam egg in front of 47,000 Padres fans at Jack Murphy Stadium. This stunt came months after the chicken was fired by the local radio station KGB, which filed a lawsuit over the use of that particular animal as a mascot. The man inside the chicken suit, Ted Giannoulis, won the right to remain a chicken. He is now 70. He's been a chicken in all 50 states and around the world. Giannoulis is rehabbing from hip replacement. He aims to resume his work next year. Well, but I know you hate mascots, but the chicken and the Philly Fanatic are great.
What a career he's had. And it's the chicken and the gorilla. I don't give a damn about the Philly Fanatic. Nationally, you're not even associated with one town. The Philly Fanatic belongs to a team. The chicken, the gorilla, those are the two. That's it. Stop with the Philly stuff. Stop with that.
This is your I-95 bias.
Stop.
It's so clear.
Philly.
You're dope on this. Happy trails to retirement for Caroline Wozniacki. The former world number 1 who retired in 2020 told Vogue she's returning to tennis. After having 2 children with her husband, former NBA player David Lee, Wozniacki began hitting a tennis ball again, and she liked how she was hitting it. She got support and encouragement from her family, particularly her husband and father, and she decided to play again. Wozniacki had previously been the Danish national champion, the Wimbledon junior champion, and the winner of an Australian Open. Wozniacki, who turns 33 next month, plans to play in the U.S. Open and would like to play in the Paris Olympics.
What a really cool story. Wozniacki easy to root for, particularly since I love her husband, David Lee, who got a ring, Tony. The first one that the Golden State Warriors won, David Lee was on that team. Good luck to them. Root for them.
Let's go to the big finish. The NFL suspended 2 players for at least a season. Another for 6 games for gambling policy violations. Your thoughts?
It's too fuzzy. I mean, the relationship now between teams, networks, gambling entities, I can't figure it out. I don't even know that players can't either. J.J. Watt is joining the CBS studio shows. That seems like a great fit to have J.J. Watt.
Great talker. Great talker. U.S. men's soccer team beat St. Kitts and Nevis 6-0. Are you impressed?
I mean, I hate to steal your population theory, but they got like 12,000 people. I mean, it's a resort, not a soccer nation. Luis Ariz down to 1 for 5 last night to fall to 396. Can he bounce back tonight?
Hope so. I want to see a guy around 400 in July. Last one, the match. Fitzpatrick, Mahomes, and Travis Kelce against Steph Curry and Klay Thompson tonight. Who's your pairing?
Can they settle it with like free throw shooting? If they do, you know who I'm taking.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. We're off to Wednesday, knuckleheads. But first, and enjoy the holiday. Your sports.
All right, Wilbon, what NBA free agency storyline are you most interested in?
Tony, you know, there's not really a strict free agency storyline that I find compelling. I mean, it's going to be trades. It's not going to be the traditional way of, oh, I'm a free agent. I'm going to go here because they have some money and I'm going to go straight to them. No. And it's not even sign and trade because it's so complicated now to do that, Tony, with the rules and the salary caps and so few teams having money. It's going to have to be trades. So if James Harden opting in, he couldn't even come to an agreement with Philly with a friendly general manager would trade if he's going to wind up seeking that. And so that may involve Kyrie Irving too, though I think that I still see him winding up in Dallas because Dallas has every reason to need to keep Kyrie Irving, given the assets they gave up to get him. So I think it's trades and not free agency where we are now.
Yeah, so I lump them together. I mean, to me, the free agency period is who moves and where do they move.
Movement, okay.
And,
all
you know,
right,
I'm
enough.
obviously interested in Harden. Somebody asked me earlier in the day where I'd like to see Kyrie next year, and I said Europe. I'm interested in Draymond Green. Does Draymond Green go back to Golden State now that they got rid of Poole? Or is he get whispered in his ear by LeBron James? How does LeBron James build a winner? Maybe they get Draymond Green. But to me, and this is a very small thing, Mike, it's very small, but I respect the San Antonio organization a lot. In terms of free agency, I'm wondering if they pick up 1 or 2 players to put around Wembanyama to help him in the transition from France to the NBA, to be like on the floor counselors as well as players. What do they do in free agency?
Tony, let me just say that I like that, but it's not small because we've seen the Spurs execute plans twice before after picking having the number one draft pick to the tune of championships. So it's not small. And, you know, if we go back a long way, a guy named Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when Oscar Robertson, sort of didn't retire and was paired with Kareem, it only took 2 years. Now, it seems to me Wembanyama is further away. But if he's as great, if he's in that category, oh, my God, I can't even suggest it, with a young Kareem, then maybe so. Maybe you find those players who help him do that sooner and not later. Wouldn't that turn basketball and sports in general on its head? That's it. We're done. Back to you.